We're students from the University of Pennsylvania, and we've come here and established an encampment on College Green with primarily three goals in mind: to ask the university to disclose their investments, to divest from the Israeli apartheid state, and to defend the voices of pro-Palestinian students on campus. With those three demands in mind, we've established a lot of different forms of programming, including what's going on now, which is a talk about anti-Semitism, both in organizing spaces and just on campus in general. And that's being led by two faculty members, I think, or two community members.
Yeah, Faculty for Justice in Palestine.
Yeah, two members of Faculty for Justice in Palestine. And so that's really exciting, just like one example of some of the programming that we've had throughout the past day. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can add. I think one of the more important parts of this space that we established is education, creating a space for education of things pro-Palestine, about Palestine that kind of the university hasn't really been teaching us, or a lot of our professors don't teach us, that we've kind of like had to take upon ourselves to learn. And I think the programming is really awesome. Like we have a wide variety. Like Emma said, we have this Faculty for Justice in Palestine professors. We've had a bunch from FJP come speak. We've also had like art builds. If you go over there, there's on Locust like chalk up and down of like Free Palestine and similar slogans. And I think the programming is also really nice because like students are also leading the programming. Like we were kind of talking about earlier, like a freshman is just really interested in kind of the similarities between the Vietnam War and protests today,
student
protests today, and that's just something like he's interested in and kind of wanted to like share what he's been learning. And so I don't know, I think it's kind of really beautiful how like there's not like the same dynamics in school that there are with like there's a professor and students. How we've kind of like broken that down and like everyone's learning from everyone.
Right, makes sense. So to address sort of I guess the media representation of a lot of these protests across America, what would you say to the people that say there's more violence, there's anti-Semitism on campus? Do you think that's accurate, especially at Penn?
I guess I would say, in terms of anti-Semitism, that is something that we care about, and I think that the session that we're having right now is testament to that. We have so many Jewish students in our organizing group and in this encampment who we value, and we do value Jewish voices on campus, and so I think that that's an important part for us of demonstrating the fact that in being pro-Palestine is being anti-hate, and that includes being against anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and in terms of the violence, I mean, we're here peacefully. Whenever people come up to us kind of trying to incite, kind of get a rise out of us, like we've told everyone here, like, don't give in to, like, don't kind of, like, that's what they want to get out of you, and don't kind of feed into that. And, like, I mean, what we're seeing across the U.S. is kind of like similar, like these nonviolent protests, and then the universities are essentially like scared of their students, scared of the spaces that these students are creating, and they're calling their like local police forces on them, and it's the police that are kind of like escalating and kind of like the perpetrators of this violence. And like safety is like our number one concern. Like we don't want anyone getting hurt.
So I guess what are your hopes? Like in an ideal world, what would be the best thing you would get out of these protests? Say maybe in whatever timeline, like a week or a few days or whatever.
I think just our demands being met.
Yeah, our three demands of disclose, divest, and defend. Ideally, those would be met, and then we would go from there. Again, like Sophia was saying, one of the other really neat aspects of this encampment is just how we've had the opportunity to create a space that the university has neglected creating on our campus, and that means that now we have opportunity to community build and to establish bonds with people who we might not necessarily be have the opportunity to do that in like a classroom context or things, or just like on Locust Walk. And so I think we've been really just encouraged already by how much support we've been receiving, and also just how much like positivity and vulnerability we've been able to cultivate in this space.
Oh, sorry. If you want to say.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay. And do you think your demands have been met so far? For example, I heard FJP did denounce like ghost robotics at Penn. Do you see that? Like, do you think there has been progress since you guys have been come out here, or?
Not yet. Not in the. We are in coalition with FJP, and so that we agree with them in terms of denouncing ghost robotics. But so far, we have not yet heard from the university in terms of their response to our demands. So.
yeah.
All right, so I'm here with Taya. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and could you tell me a little bit about what you do with the protest and how you got involved?
Yeah, so we are part of a national movement right now that is uniting Palestine solidarity protests across the country, and it's been really powerful to see what's going on at other schools, and we wanted to get involved. So we currently have 3 demands, which is disclose. So the university needs to disclose all of its financial holdings, including its endowment and what they're investing their endowment in. They need to divest. So we want the university to divest from all holdings in the Israeli state and the Israeli military. Currently, they are funding weapons that are being sent to Gaza through Ghost Robotics, so that is also part of that demand. And also defend not only the student activists, but the Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim students that have been cast aside by this university and unjustly disciplined for their participation in activism.
Gotcha. And so could you tell me a bit about the programming? I see you have like a professor talking to the students. How has that been? What's the dynamic been like?
I mean, the programming has been very powerful. It's definitely a community effort where people have been reaching out to us, we're reaching out to people, and we're seeing like a flood of community support. So we had like Fred Hampton Jr. here earlier today and Pan Africa, and yeah, they're giving like very powerful and igniting speeches. So, and we also have poetry readings and, you know, song workshops, and yeah, it's a really good chance for us to not only learn together but be able to commune, be in open dialogue, and also just like create a new community, because we have been, I guess, kind of pushed aside and divided by Penn. So we're taking the space for ourselves now.
Gotcha. And would you say you've taken any inspiration from previous like peaceful protests? For example, back in the 60s with Vietnam, has that factored into any of how you conduct the protests?
Yeah, I would say 100%. I mean, the university campus has always been like a hotbed for student activism and social movements. So whether it's like Vietnam or whether it's like May 1968, these student activists have paved the way, and they've been so inspiring, including like the movement against South African apartheid has been really inspiring and encouraging for us. So yeah, I would say we are definitely building it up, and now, you know, with these kind of occupation encampment protests, I think the widespread nature of them right now is redefining how protest is happening on university campuses. So yeah, it's very exciting to see, and it's exciting to also be part of that history.
And can I ask, generally, are you optimistic for the future of Israel-Palestine? Do you see there being a way to peace or a two-state solution or anything?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I wouldn't be here if I wasn't optimistic, but it's also such an awful genocide that we are witnessing right now, and, you know, at times it's easy to be hopeless and feel like we're not doing anything, but I always think about like one of the last posts that Aaron Bushnell made, where it's kind of not an exact quote, but he said like, what people often ask themselves, what would you do if you were alive during a war or during a genocide and your country was complicit? And the answer is you're doing it right now. So I think right now there's really no other option other than for us to hope for a better future and also fight for that better future. So that's what we're doing here now.